May the example of Paraguay, its spirit of freedom, and its love for the homeland continue to strengthen Western Hemisphere Institute for Security Cooperation's mission and its commitment to peace, democracy, and the prosperity of all Paraguay. All the countries of the Americas?
Inspired by the tactical structure of the border outpost wall, Paraguay set up a containment operation along the border strip. With a focus on stopping criminals from Comando Vermelho and Primero Comando de Capital from migrating, a new country has joined Brazil's battle against drug trafficking. Paraguay, a key neighbor and now a direct ally of Rio de Janeiro's police, has chosen to act boldly, even challenging Brazil's current president. In a first, the Paraguayan president authorized the armed forces to capture Brazilian criminals fleeing across the border.
Argentina and Paraguay, neighboring countries of Brazil, have decided to classify the criminal factions Comando Vermelho and Primeiro Comando da Capital as terrorist organizations. The measure was announced just a few days after Operation Containment, which mobilized about 2,500 agents, both civilian and military, in the Penha and Alemão complexes in Rio de Janeiro.
The decision was made after the mega operation by the civil police and military police in Rio, which neutralized more than 100 members of factions who refused to surrender. The decision was made after the police operation, which neutralized more than 100 criminal members. The measure adopted by Paraguay demonstrates not only solidarity, but also an active stance in confronting international narco-terrorism. The Paraguayan government formally labeled these factions as terrorist organizations. This allows the unrestricted use of military forces to neutralize the criminals and support the continent's security forces. Welcome to life in the barracks. The elite mobilization of the Paraguayan armed forces shows the country will not be a refuge for criminals. Troops trained in irregular combat, jungle patrol, and advanced surveillance are already positioned in strategic regions such as Alto Paraná and Canindeu. With modern weaponry, reconnaissance drones, and light armored vehicles, Paraguay is turning its border into a wall of defense against transnational crime. While the Brazilian president refuses to recognize drug trafficking as terrorism, Paraguay acts with independence and courage, drawing ever closer to the United States. The decision to directly support Operation Containment in Rio de Janeiro represents a strategic alignment with Donald Trump's government, which has also offered help to Brazil. The union of these countries could mark the beginning of a new phase in public security in South America.
The Caveirão drives through Vila Aliança Favela in Rio's West Zone. The police officer warns the traffickers use heavy weapons. The shots shatter through the breeze. The driver tries to escape the criminals' siege.
The mega operation in Rio de Janeiro marked a turning point in the fight against violence in Brazilian cities. Factions that have dominated entire communities for decades. They were confronted by elite troops, such as Batalhão de Operações Policiais Especiais and Coordenadoria de Recursos Especiais, who show the world the operational capability of the Brazilian forces.
Guys, don't let the images hide the truth. Don't let them. Do you know why they died in the woods? Because we have hundreds of videos out there showing where they run, where they go, to the refuge of the woods. That's why they died in the woods. Got it? That's why. Do you know why they're in their underwear on the ground? Do you know why? Without shoes, because they ran naked. Who were they? Swimmers. Let's think. They're naked because they were in uniform, damn it. Why did they take off their camouflage? That's why. Why would a bunch of men in camouflage lie down there on the ground? That's not noticed. That's not seen, right, isn't it? I've heard people say, oh, if you take away the rifle, they're just a human being.
Reinforcing Paraguayan troops could block a key escape and supply route for organized crime in Brazil. The extensive stretch of border between Brazil and Paraguay has always been exploited by traffickers and smugglers, but now it is being monitored by military personnel with legal authorization to act.
On the border between Brazil and Paraguay in Mato Grosso do Sul, a major joint operation is underway in partnership with the police forces of both countries. The task force ends with the arrest of two leaders of one of Brazil's largest criminal organizations.
The Brazilian president, in turn, remains reluctant to authorize the use of the national armed forces to combat crime within the country. Interestingly, the government readily guarantees law and order for international events like the G20 or Conference of the Parties 30. To protect foreign leaders, they offer everything. But to protect Brazilians, the current government only stays silent and defends criminals.
You could count money here in the middle of the landfill and walk around with your cell phone at 4 in the morning and nothing would happen. There was no problem at all. The G20 left and so did the security.
The Minister of Defense of Paraguay, Oscar Gonzalez, stated that the new legal framework allows the armed forces to act without depending on other institutions. He said the Comando Vermelho and Primero Comando de Capital are already in Paraguay and will now face full force. The statement indicates the neighboring country recognizes the situation's seriousness and will not tolerate criminals in its territory. The question that remains is, why does the Brazilian president refuse international aid to address the violence? Why not officially recognize these factions as narco-terrorists? This omission harms the work of the security forces and makes it harder to punish criminals, confirming a popular saying that something wrong is not right. The truth is that countries like the United States, Paraguay, and Argentina care more about the safety of Brazilians than the federal government does. In the last video about the support from the United States to Rio de Janeiro, we received countless comments with suggestions and accurate analyses. Your participation is essential to keep this debate alive and to push for real changes in public security. Leave your opinion here in the comments about Paraguay's support for Operation Containment, and tell us if you believe that this union can change the public security scenario in Brazil. The fight against organized crime requires action, strategy, and global cooperation, not speeches.
Suddenly, they seem to come across a group of criminals and are attacked with dozens of gunshots. Two police officers fall to the ground, roll to protect themselves. One of them is wounded in the hand, the other in the stomach, and he calls for backup on the phone. The two of them crawl, trying to get out of the line of fire. Another officer arrives to help one of his colleagues.
Paraguay and the United States understood this, but the current Brazilian president seems to live in a parallel world. At Vida at the Barracks, you stay updated on all military news. Leave your like, subscribe, and watch one of the videos that's appearing on your screen. Forward combatants, see you next time.